Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to the BYA podcast. And our goal today is, and every day, is to bring you guests that will leave you inspired, folks that have overcome some challenges in life, shown great resilience, but yet still gone on to be successful. And I think our guest today, Armand Robinson, is just an epitome of that type of journey. Armand, it's such a great pleasure for you to be here today. You're a product of Reynoldsburg, Ohio, one of the greatest schools in the world, Miami of Ohio, and I say that with all the love and honor and respect that I could possibly give. Another a Red Hawk there. You were a football player there. You excelled in the classroom. You were undrafted free agent with the Steelers. You played some arena ball for a while. You moved to Dallas. You're now in a financial advisor with Edward Jones and a certified financial planner. And you're just a great young man. And I'm proud of the journey that you've taken and where you are today. I'm super proud and happy to have you as a guest today. Armand, welcome.
Thank you so much, Phil, for considering me just to be on this podcast. You're doing incredible work, and always great to connect with you. Being two Miami alums, I look up to you. You are an inspiration, the work that you've done. So I appreciate you for even considering me to be on your show. I appreciate your podcast. I appreciate you.
Man, it's a great honor, and I love seeing people who are starting out, going through their career, and even people that have achieved success, and just hearing their stories and the challenges that they've had to overcome. And I know I kind of prepped the audience earlier as to your path, but I just want you to kind of dig in for the audience a little bit about, hey, you grew up in Columbus, Ohio, right? Talk to us a little bit about growing up in Reynoldsburg and what the childhood was like. What made you decide on Miami of Ohio, the sports and everything? And just take a moment to kind of give us a little bit of background about Armand.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you said, I grew up in Reynoldsburg. Actually was born in Cincinnati, but I moved to Columbus at a young age. And really, we moved to Reynoldsburg in seventh grade. So I went to Columbus public schools prior to that. I was raised by my mom. My father was actually, he wasn't in my life, but my mom raised me, and I had three siblings, so four children, single mother, and which I now being a father of one and realizing how challenging that is. Like I admire the hard work that my mom had to commit to be able to raise four children of her own. But yeah, we grew up in Roseburg, Ohio. Really enjoyed the school there. I had a couple of role models, my uncle and a couple of uncles that were kind of my role models, and one of them was a lawyer, and I was very inspired by him, and I ended up wanting to go down the same path as him. So I was going to become a lawyer at some point. That was kind of like the goal in life, and I actually that was kind of like the guiding force to figure out where I was going to go to school, what I was going to study, et cetera, et cetera. But my junior year in high school, so freshman year and sophomore, I didn't play football.
Okay.
I did play in Little League. My junior year, coaches and teammates were saying, "Hey, we could use you." Roseburg was a middle of the road team. They had some success in the early '90s, but not a ton. But they were trying to get all the guys they can get to come out. And so, anyways, they encouraged me to come out my junior year, and I had some success. I did pretty well. And after the year was over, I started getting offers to play in college. And so
Right.
it kind of surprised me because that wasn't really my intent all along. But my first offer in the mail was the University of North Carolina, which was kind of cool. I just got this in the mail, like never talked to anybody from North Carolina, and I get an offer in the mail. But anyway, so I started to get offered. Senior year, had some success and had some more offers, and ultimately decided to stay close to home and still focus on academics. So Miami was the only school, well, Cincinnati and Miami were the two closest schools that offered me. And I ended up choosing Miami because I was, again, thinking about long-term, what I was going to do, go to law school. And so even at Miami of Ohio, a lot of the individuals who were going to go on to be lawyers studied history. And so that's my major that I chose. And kind of the same thing happened. I played football, but it was always, academics first, football second. I started having some success.
Isn't that the way it should be?
It should be, exactly. Well, I know coaches in the past used to say academics first, football second.
Right.
Anyway, but at Miami, no, it was academics first. And so my junior year, I started having some success on the Gridiron, and started to get contacted by some agents. And so I started to kind of realize, wow, I could actually play professional football as a job. And anyway, so I don't know if I took us off the path that you wanted to go. I did start talking about my background.
It's really where you want to go. I think it's great.
Yeah.
No, okay. I think it's great. Now, who did you play for? I mean, this is just, hey man, look, this is just two friends having a conversation, but really kind of digging into it a little deeper to kind of help folks along the way. So, like, what coach did you play for at Miami?
So, coming in, Coach Shane Montgomery recruited me. He was the head coach at the time. Very good coach, very good recruiter, and he was one of the reasons why I went to Miami. Really, really good guy, but unfortunately, he didn't have a lot of success while I was there, and so he was replaced by Michael Haywood.
Okay. Yeah.
If you remember him, but he coached at Notre Dame, Texas, had an extensive background, a lot of connections, and he brought in a lot of great coaches around it. Actually had some success. So I don't know if you remember, in 2009, we won one game. This was his first year coming in, and then the following year we went 10-4, won the MAC championship, won our bowl game, and was recognized as one of the only teams to win one game and come back and win 10. So it was
that was incredible. Good for you.
Yeah. So those two guys had a huge impact on my life. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean it's kind of interesting because I'm kind of seeing a pattern where it's like, hey man, I really want to do, I mean, sports are important, but it's not everything, so I'm going to go out, I'm going to give it, my best, but I really don't have any expectation. And then next thing you know, you get a scholarship offer from an ACC school right at North Carolina. And then, you start balling out your junior and your senior year at Miami, and you start getting traction, from the NFL. And so it's like, I'm just kind of going along, and it kind of happens for you. That's a good thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's crazy how football kind of helped, got my path, even though I wasn't really fully embracing it in terms of this is what I'm going to do for a living. It was more, okay, football's going to get me that's going to help you pay for school, which is great. Yeah. But and academics was most important. And that was something that my family had taught me as well. I have aunts and uncles who always instilled, hey, you have to focus on academics. And so that was very important to me. I knew that there was going to be a time that even if I did do any professional football, I'd have to fall back on something. So thank goodness that they kind of instilled that in me. But
so I mean, sports is something that you do, but it doesn't necessarily define you, and now I think you can even see it as you age. A lot of guys, unfortunately, are still kind of tied up and wrapped up back in the past. And it's like, life has gone on, bro. It's time to catch up, and you're still back on the field, and life has still moved on, so a lot of guys, unfortunately, get lost in that. And a lot of former athletes, unfortunately, still get lost in that. And when those playing days are done, it's a real struggle, and it's the same, whether you're working, you're in a career, I was in McDonald's for 23 years. I ain't gonna lie, I struggled when I first got out, because that was your brand, that was your identity and what you were. And so, to make that transition, sometimes it's hard for a lot of people, and it's even hard for executives too.
I think you're exactly spot on. And even though I had this, again, I knew that academics were important. I knew that, football was going to come to an end. Even knowing that when football did come to an end, it was hard to accept. I mean,
absolutely.
I was like, no, I want to play football. I can still, because I knew in my mind I could still compete.
Right.
But it's the NFL is what does it stand for? Not for
long.
There's an ending, and so it was a pretty tough pill to swallow. However, I think taking what you learn in football and just your experiences. I mean, guys really have an advantage if they can use those things that you learn in football and try to apply them into the real world. And that's what I tried to do after football. So
Yeah, no, it's so great because you absolutely can take those skill sets, from the locker room to the boardroom. And I'm surprised so many of the guys, and former athletes, they've transitioned into coaching. And I mean, that's really what the school was known for. And I know when I got hurt my junior year and I had to stop playing, I had worked at a sports camp for a number of years. And the coaches at the time were like, well, do you want to become a coach? Because we know the work that you had done at the sports camp. And I was like, nah, y'all travel too much. You don't make any money. And now look at coaches, right? Like they're like
yeah,
off the charts,
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's crazy. I mean, did you play with McVay?
Yeah. It's funny. They still have the roster listed online, but I looked at our roster the other day. We had 6 guys that played in the, I don't know if you remember Tom Crabtree played for the Green
Mhm.
Bay Packers, won a Super Bowl with them. We had McConnell, he was a tight end as well, played for the Kansas City Chiefs for multiple years. We had Ryan Robinson, he played for the Carolina Panthers. Sean
Yeah.
McVay coaches for the Rams. Chris Shula. So we had a team of guys who literally are that they have either played in the NFL or coached in the NFL, and so it was pretty amazing to be around some of those guys. And I guess at the time you realize these guys are hard workers, they're smart,
Oh,
and so they're probably going to have some success at whatever they do. But it's just really cool to see how high achievements they've made in their lives. So
yeah, it is great. And Harbaugh was a teammate of mine, and I know I'm aging myself right now, but he was older than me. But you look at his success that he's had with the Ravens, and it was so crazy, man. Even like people that aren't from the area really don't understand the impact that football has on even a community. I mean, on my street, on my block, I was this guy on the block, of course, right? But this guy next door to me was on Bo Pelini's staff in Nebraska. This guy over here, Wentz Morris, I don't know if you know Wentz, but then Jonathan Stiegel is with the Jets as a scout with the Jets. And then Charles Bird is with the Saints.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I mean, just on that one little block and a half, we had 3 guys that went on and participated at a high level in coaching and all those kinds of things. And Weeb Eubank, lived in the town, and he was the coach that won the Super Bowl when Joe Namath made the claim that we're going to win, and just to get all of this mentoring, it really was phenomenal that I didn't go into coaching, but the sport has had an impact, dramatic impact on my life, and just the lessons that you learn from that sport is life changing and incredible. And I tell my sons all the time, you only have a limited time in life to be a college athlete. Our youngest son is a lacrosse player up in Kentucky at a school called Bellarmine, and it's a D1 school. And I'm like, dude, you only have this period once in your life. I know it's hard, I know it's a challenge, but trust me, one day you'll look back on it and you'll be like, it was the greatest, coolest experience, you'll ever have, and so that is so awesome. Let's talk about, leaving Miami and going through, the Steelers and that challenge, if you will. And, I think in many ways we all have that dream, like, wow, I want to play at the next level, or I might, and it didn't quite work out. But what did it teach you, and how did you bounce back from that? Because I love resilience. I love folks who are resilient, and I think it just kind of shows your toughness.
But yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. So like I said, it wasn't really necessarily a goal all along to play in the NFL. But it happened. It just happened. We had a good junior year, had a good junior year and a good senior year on the gridiron. And I went from not thinking that I was going to have the ability to play in the NFL, wasn't even in my mind, to thinking, I may get drafted 5th, 6th round in the NFL. I mean, I had scouts talking to me and meeting with agents, and so as you know, that the biggest thing about the NFL is how you test. I mean, obviously your film is important and your agents are important, but how can you test when it comes to your pro day or the combine? I didn't get invited to the combine, so I had to, depend on, what I did at pro day. And I didn't really test that well. I didn't run a good 40. My bench press was good, and some other things were good, but the 40 is what matters most if you're a wide receiver.
Yeah.
So I didn't really test well that day. So I ended up, my draft stock kind of fell, but I still, like you said, I got an opportunity to play for, going to camp with the Steelers, and I still saw that as an opportunity. And so it was one of the most exciting times of my life to be able to be around some of the guys you watch on TV, compete at the
Right.
highest level, be around great coaches. And another challenge that I had to overcome was that year that I came out was the lockout year. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, I mean, we had already had an uphill battle just being an undrafted free agent rookie, but to deal with the lockout, we didn't get that full off season to learn the playbook, et cetera. And so we reported to camp, in late July, August. I mean, we missed pretty much all the off season, which I think put us at a disadvantage. But I had a couple of catches in the games. My first play in the NFL was a punt return, and I really didn't do that in college. So I didn't. As you know, that's one of the scariest plays.
Oh, absolutely. You're looking up at that ball, and
that guy's going full speed at you. You never did
Right.
it before, and so I didn't do well on that first play. And I think, if I was going to make the team, that was how I was going to make it. But overall, it was a great experience. Again, got to meet a lot of cool guys. And when I actually got cut from there, which was at the final cuts, I thought that I might have an opportunity to continue to play at another team, but I never got picked up anywhere else. I had to work out with the 49ers, and I played in arena football, like you said, for a few years. But the biggest thing that the NFL taught me was that you can only control what you can control.
Right.
So coming into this career where I'm in now as a financial advisor,
Right.
I am rewarded for my hard work and efforts. In the NFL, it doesn't always work that way. I mean, there's so many other variables,
Right.
And so I really appreciate the fact that, if you work hard at what I do now, then I will be rewarded for it. So, but the NFL also taught me that the discipline and teamwork and all those other principles that we talk about in sports, that I think that if guys can kind of use, if they can think about those principles that they have, they can use that in the real world to their advantage. Where a lot of people don't have those, they didn't have those experiences that can benefit them. So great experience, but didn't work out ultimately. And again, it was a lesson.
What? Yeah. There's very few people, obviously, who have that experience. But the cool thing is that you learn from that and you grew from that, right? And that's so crucial. So how where did you're in Pittsburgh? Where does Dallas come into play? Where does hey, I'm interested in being a financial advisor. You had this uncle that was in legal, in the legal world. Were you still thinking about the legal area, or were you just thinking like, what? I kind of have this thing for, making folks wealthy and helping them, with their finances. So where did that come to play?
Well, so my last stop playing football was in San Jose, California. I played for the SaberCats, and my brother was living here in Dallas. His wife is from here, so he moved here. And one of the things about me is I was all about figuring it out. You have to just figure it out, and it takes being uncomfortable, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that forms who you really are. So he said, hey, why don't you come down here and train, because at that time I was still trying to figure out where I was gonna, maybe have another opportunity to play football. So I came down here and trained with him, and we, did some odd things, odd jobs, like, I was helping him train. I worked as a manager of a valet company. I was just trying to get some income and trying to figure it all out. I was in a stage where I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Do I want to go to school? Do I want to go to law school? Do I want to just go into a corporate role somewhere? And ultimately, I decided that I looked at what my skill set was, and I think that I'm really good working with people, and I really enjoy working with people. And I wanted to do something that was fulfilling, so something that I could actually help people and make an impact. And also, I like money, so I wanted to do something where I was able to be compensated for my hard work. And so, originally, what I did when I first started my first career job was going to a State Farm agency route. That actually didn't work out because I was working as an apprentice for a gentleman, and he put up a lot of money, and things just didn't work out for him. And so, I was getting recruited by Edward Jones at the time because, again, similar models, but and this guy, he sold me. He said, "This is a great company where you're compensated for your hard work. You can make an impact on people, and it's a life-changing career." And so, I went all in. The challenge was when I started here is that, hey, you got to build your business on your. You don't get, we give you the tools, we give you some,
right,
but you got to go out and get after it. You got to go hustle, right?
right.
And part of that was, cold calling. And they did it the old-fashioned way. They went out and knocking on doors and going into business and shaking people's hands. And going back to the football thing, I think people would be so afraid to put themselves out there and do that. But I used to always think there's nothing harder than a punt return in the NFL. Your first play, this is easy compared to
right
that.
in front of 80,000 people and 11 guys who are trying to make it. Right.
Exactly. So I use that. Those lessons learned in football and said, you know what, I'm just going to go out there and get it. And I went out and I knocked on doors. I went out, shook people's hands in businesses, got a ton of rejections. But ultimately, if you do enough of it, you get good at it, you get comfortable with it, and it works out. So that's kind of how I ended up in down. And once I built my business here, and we talked about it. The weather here is great. The business is good. People are great. I mean, I don't see myself ever leaving here, but I made it a point not to go back to Ohio. I couldn't go back home, go back to, because again, I've been more comfortable being around family. I wanted to be uncomfortable, and I wanted to build it here in Texas. So,
I have been fortunate enough to do some work with Edward Jones, and it was interesting to learn their model. And as far as like, we're going to put you in the neighborhood, and you got to go out and meet your neighbors and, knock on their doors. And sometimes, there's some funny stories that have gone along with that. I've heard some stories about dogs and stuff like that, chasing people or whatever. Yeah. But I think it does build, obviously a lot of character, and probably after each call you had to say, well, if it didn't go well, that didn't go well. What did I do? What could I have done better? What could I, work on to improve for the next one? And obviously, you don't want to be canned. Every potential prospect is their own individual person, or every client is their own individual person. So you want to respond accordingly. But it has to, have your hair stand on the back of your neck a little bit, just because you don't know what the response is going to be,
But I learned that, anything that, if you do enough of anything, you're going to get good at it. And so I just embraced that and said, there is a ton of houses that I can knock on if I want to. And if I just go do it, I'll get comfortable with being rejected. And truthfully, if you do it in a respectful way, I had very little, aggression or people angry. I got a lot of no's, but at the end of the day, there's a way to go about it. And again, if you do a lot of it, you can get good at it. And so that's kind of how it played out, and just embrace that abundance mentality as opposed to a scarcity. I mean, there's so many people that I can talk to. If I hear one no, that's just one step closer to a yes. So
I love that, man, because that talks a lot about the mindset, and just the abundance mentality, and that there's so many people that are out there that have the potential to say yes versus no. And, folks in your space that are going through this growth phase, because a lot of folks may not know in your industry and in certain companies, you have certain thresholds that you have to meet by a certain date. And so there is a lot of pressure there to get out and to push yourself. And, it's not natural to keep pushing when you continue to hear, out of 8 calls or whatever, and you're getting rejected, 7 of those times or 6 of those times. That's hard. That's really hard. And it requires a lot of mental toughness and resilience. And I think that's why I opened this program talking about, sports, talking about the challenges that you had, hey, the disappointment that you had, and how that all kind of came together for you as a financial advisor with Edward Jones, and you have to have that in that mindset. Your industry and just what I know of the industry as a whole, there's a lot of challenges for guys like you and me, and as far as being in the business and being successful, I'm not going to shy away from it. I mean, it is what it is, and I've worked in it and helped folks in it for a long time. And there are support groups, and how important has mentoring, been for you in this space where you could talk to other folks? I know we talked about, one of our other friends down in, I think, South Texas, Keith, and you had a lot of what was Fred that was here in Atlanta. How has mentoring helped you along the way?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to have mentorship. One of the cool things about Edward Jones is that we are a partnership. So we're private. We don't answer to shareholders. And we have this culture of really giving back and helping other advisors. And so I literally can call any advisor for Edward Jones and say, hey, how did you do this? Did you have success with this? Or, can you help me with this? And they'll be more than willing to help, or, if they don't know the answer, they can point me in a direction. You don't have that with other firms. And so that was one of the cool things about this firm too, that when I was coming on, it's a culture of helping and giving back. And so, and even today I'm mentoring are helping onboard an advisor and really just kind of sharing with him my experiences and helping whatever I can. And it's extremely important because, again, this is a tough business. It's a lot of turnover. And if you don't have somebody that's giving you good information and giving you good fuel and just advocating for you, then I don't know, how do you survive? So, like I said, my uncle was growing up instilling those principles of hard work and discipline, and education is important. Where would I be if I didn't have that? And then, as I am where I am today, just making sure that I'm surrounding myself with people who are giving me good energy and good fuel, and always being open to learning. I think that's important, and hearing from people who've already been through what you've been through, extremely important.
Yeah. When I was a McDonald's franchisee, we had a support group and called the National Black McDonald's Operators Association. And it was so cool because, there were 300 of us around the country. There was probably 2,500, 3,000 franchisees, but just a small subset were Black. And even in our communities, very few people understood the pressure, understood, the grind. I'm leading 400 people, equipment's breaking, all kinds of stuff. And so just to be able to call, someone else in the group and just say, man, bruh, you have no idea what I went through today, right?
Yeah.
I just need to bounce this off of somebody because I'm about ready to lose my mind, and to have someone who really could listen, could understand, and then even someone you could role model after. And I never will forget. I was uncomfortable in some respects in my restaurants in Kentucky, and I was like, wow, I'm going down here. Tubby Smith was the basketball coach at the time, and he wasn't doing well, and they were on him. They were on him hard, and so here I am buying these stores, and I growing up in Ohio, Kentucky, I had a little fear, but the folks at Kentucky were great. I mean, they were wonderful. But I was always kind of back. I was always kind of reserved. And I never will forget, I went to a buddy of mine's store one day, and this guy's name was George Saliban. I love George. George was my consultant when he used to be a corporate guy, and then he transferred over into becoming an owner and had a great career, but he was a great coach. But George was originally from Beirut, Lebanon, right? And so this is 2010, 2008, 2005, whatever. I walk into George's restaurant and this guy walks in and I swear he looked like he had just come out of the mountain somewhere, right? But he screams at the top of his lungs, scared the hell out of me. I'm in the stores and he's like, "Where's my buddy George?" Right? And I'm like, "What the hell?" Well, George and this guy run up to one another and they hug and, they're like really, fans and everything. And, and the guy said, "George, I was thinking about going out to grab something to eat and I thought of you." Okay. That in itself resonated with me, right? Like, hey, I'm thinking about getting myself together and I'm thinking about Armand. I'm thinking about George, but what it really taught me as as an owner and as a Black man, it was like, dude, you're going to have some people who embrace you, and you're going to have some people who aren't. But that abundance mindset, there's more people out there who are willing and to give you that opportunity than there are who aren't, and so just roll through them and just keep pushing and keep it moving. And so that just gave me the confidence in many ways. That mentorship, that visualization right there, and seeing George out front, like you're out front with your team, that gave me confidence in many ways to, hey, you know what? I'm going to step out of my shell. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be in front and meet my customers, and they're going to know that I'm the owner, and I'm not going to hide behind the shadows. And I think a lot of folks, man, could just benefit from that message, man, woman, whatever, black, white, brown, whatever. That message right there, just getting out of your head and just going for it and having that abundance life, mindset, that message right there needs to be told.
I think that's powerful. I fully agree with you. I think about, I feel the same way. I thought, wow, I wonder if people are going to, accept me because I'm a young guy,
right.
In an industry that, maturity helps, right? I'm a Black guy. I'm young. How are people going to really look at me? Am I going to be able to be successful? And I quickly learned, that exact lesson. There's some people who might not like me or who might not want to do business with me because I'm young, because I'm Black, or for whatever reason, I'm soft-spoken. There are going to be people who want to do business with me for those same reasons that people didn't want to do business with me. And I'm thinking that there's a lot of people out there, and then also you got to understand the value that you're bringing. If you really, truly believe in what you are out trying to give to others, I don't mind if you don't want to accept my services. In my mind, I think, well, I'm sorry for you. I'm going to move on and find somebody who I can impact. And so I think it's really important that you also embrace and value what you're actually providing.
Bring to the table.
One book that also helped me too when I was out prospecting, when I was out going to meet people, is Nick Murray's The Game of Numbers. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that. Great book, but he talks about it, a great analogy in there. If someone said, hey, you can have unlimited spins at the casino on the slot machine, what would you do? Would you just keep pulling that lever, or would you just stop after 10 and say, my arm hurts and this thing's not hitting, so I'm just going to, leave and get up and say that this thing doesn't work? You're going to continue to pull that lever, probably as long as you can. And that's the type of mindset you got to have, like you said, the abundance mindset instead of this scarcity mindset. And so that's what I embrace every day when I come to work. There's so many people in the world. How can I go out and just, touch and meet as many people as I can? So
yeah. No, and I think you're great at doing it. You mentioned something though, and this was so important, and that was the value that you bring to others. Right? It's not about yourself. It's really about the value that you bring to others. And, I know when I talk to folks in your industry, being a business owner and trying to share with them, like, hey, look, I may be at a growth stage or a stage in my business that I may not be able to have. I may not have a lot of funds to invest with you today. Right. Mm-hmm. But that still doesn't mean that you can't impact me. You can't add value to me and kind of drip on me, if you will, over the time and over the years, and be involved and engaged in my business and be of value, so that when that transition does occur, I'm thinking of Armand. I'm thinking of, how do we go about making this transition and creating the succession plan so that I can go off and have funds available to me in the future and really live the type of life in retirement that I want. But I also want to talk to you about your designation because I noticed, on your LinkedIn profile, you have a designation, CFP, which stands for Certified Financial Planner. Was that a conscious decision to go after that elite designation like that? And how has that separated you from the crowd?
Yeah, good question. The CFP, as you said, is a very important designation to have in our industry. To get it, you have to go and go to take courses around financial planning, risk management, estate planning, taxes, etc. And so it gives you some better acumen around the wealth management spectrum. But also, in order to hold that designation, you have to be a fiduciary, which means doing the right things, doing what's in the best interest of the client, not doing things what's in the best interest of the financial advisor. And so it really gives you some credibility when you're having conversations with people, because if you aren't being a fiduciary, you can have those marks removed. And so it was a very conscious effort for me, because I want people to know that I am here to help them, and I'm going to be as trustworthy and be a fiduciary for them. But I also want them to know that I have the educational background to be able to actually add value to their situation. And it differentiates, because there's a lot of people who use financial advisor, but it's an ambiguous term. I mean, financial advisor could be somebody that's just selling life insurance or something, So it was a differentiator. But it was a big commitment. It took, I was still running my business, and I had to take night classes. I went to SMU, did night classes for a year and a half, and then studied for several months to take this exam. And so it was certainly a conscious effort. And again, it makes me understand the value that I'm bringing to others. And hopefully, some people don't know about it, but hopefully I can convey what I am actually doing and how I'm helping to make a change in people's lives, financial lives.
No, that is fantastic. And then are there like ongoing courses or certain CEUs that you have to take each year in order to maintain that designation?
Yeah, that's right. You got continuing education every 2 years, and in order to maintain it. And again, you have to take that exam. You have courses to take, and then you have to really abide by that fiduciary standard, and make sure you're being ethical, etc. And so a lot of folks want to work with people that they can trust, and if they can't trust you, they're not going to give you their money. And so it's one way to help clients feel more comfortable and add credibility to you. So I just thought it was a no-brainer, especially because the industry is got so many people in it, and so many people call themselves financial advisors, and so again, a differentiator. So
no, it's good. I looked at your LinkedIn profile, and I I was talking to you earlier about it, and I applauded you on it. Your tagline was tailored solutions for entrepreneurs, executives, and busy professionals. And I thought it was very simplistic. I thought it was you clearly have defined niches, if you will, that are wide and deep, and especially in the city of Dallas. And I know it took a lot of work, and you're like, man, don't give all my trade secrets away, but it is public. So it wasn't like I just dug into it and we had a conversation, but it is public. But I thought you did a great job with marketing yourself, kind of getting yourself out there. And I followed you on LinkedIn for a number of years now, and I like how you go about positioning yourself as an expert. You're very skilled at it, and it's not I'm beating my chest and I'm Armand. It's subtle, but it's there, it's constant, and it's credible. And I think that's very important. If I'm in my past role as a franchisee, I got solicited quite a bit, from folks like yourself. And one of the questions that I would always pose is, well, talk to me a little bit about the work that you've done with people who are in my situation. I talk to me a little bit about business owners, like how many business owners, or have you worked with franchisees or whatever, so I think that's good. How did you go about making a decision? Like, I want to talk to these three different groups? I mean, what was the mindset that you had to develop in order to target those niches? And did they help you with that development, or did you say, nah, you know what? This is where I want to be, this, because I would think that, one might be, here's the obvious, right? Oh, I'm sure he's going to focus on athletes. I'm sure he's probably going to focus on maybe lawyers or something like that,
Yeah.
but you didn't, and that would have been the easiest path and probably the most, I can't say the most logical, but if I'm sitting there from the outside, I could say, oh, that's probably what he wants to do.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the path that you chose.
Yeah. So first off, appreciate you giving me those positive remarks about my LinkedIn. I'm still learning. Social media is a great way to market yourself, and so I'm really trying to learn on how to best do that and optimize my chances of connecting with the people that I want to connect with. So, but I know they say what keep it simple, stupid. So I just said, hey, keep it simple. Make sure that your audience understands who you work with and who you like to be with, and take that Chipotle mindset. There's only a few ingredients, and I don't need to make it complex. So, when I was, like I said, I went out, I prospected cold call. I mean, I went out and met people in their neighborhoods and their businesses, and it was so I have a business that where I have people from lawyers, dentists, whatever. It's a large spectrum of different professions. But what I did was I took a look at my book and I said, who do I enjoy working with the most? Because
Right.
I think in any industry, if you can get a niche market, it can help you tremendously. You become an expert in that area, and then you have
Absolutely.
better chances of closing business. Um, my book told me that business owners, executives are those are my favorite individuals to work with. You know why? Because they're like me. I'm a business owner. I mean, I work
Right.
for McDonald's, but we run our own business, and so they get it, and they also have the assets to normally have the assets, or at least the income, to be
Right.
able to ideal clients from a financial perspective. And so, they just kind of, I just realized that, hey, these are the people that I want to work with, and I enjoy working with the most. So that's kind of how it happened. I can't say that I'll never look towards athletes, because you're right. That's a great avenue, especially now we have the NIL and
That's a whole game changer. I mean,
these guys making money in high school and college and
right. It's just crazy.
getting recruited in high
And for
school.
those that don't, I mean, you may not know what is it, name, image, likeness. And so
Yeah,
these
exactly.
young high school players and college players today are getting contracts and brand deals that are in the hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. And so, what would once be a niche, if you will, like, hey, I want to go after professional athletes. And we had this conversation. It's like, on a team like Dallas Cowboys, how many players do they really carry? 60 or something like that. And then, you've got the training team. So it's like, in a city of Dallas, you might have 80 guys or, whatever that are on that team, but you probably have 800,000 physicians, professionals that are making the same amount of money that they're making. And so it's a matter of which pool is bigger and how
Yeah,
many hoops do you have to go through in order to get to those guys. But
exactly.
today with the NIL thing, and I think a lot of parents and a lot of families, they're going to come into some money, which I believe, in my heart, I think it's great. These kids, I mean, the schools obviously made a lot of money off of these kids. And so, in order to be able to do that, they can really set their families up for success. But they do need support and help in managing those resources because they're going to have one hell of a tax bill, number one. I mean, it's going to hit them. There might even be a market for, hey, we're going to set you up with a trust, right? So that, and I don't want to get into details and have you go into those details because that's not what this show is about. But to me, we had one son who won a six-figure deal on a game show as a little kid. Okay, we put the money in a trust. Right. And so as he grows and ages, the money compounds, those kinds of things, it'll be there for him. I cannot imagine, coming out 17, 18 years old. I just signed a $5 million, $10 million deal. Those are nice problems to have.
Very nice problem to have. That's absolutely right. But yeah, you're right. You make a great point. It opens up a whole new market. And a lot of times these kids parents might need financial advisors. So I know that those are the people that they're turning towards to help them make these financial decisions. And so there's a huge opportunity for financial advisors to help some of these young folks who are having these large sums of money.
Yeah, and it would be great. And I hope the universities bring in people like yourself to really educate the kids today, the athletes in the department on personal finance, and just kind of help them with uh, screening professionals like yourself, and just make sure that, the folks that they're working with have the credentials and really, in a position to help. Armand, you mentioned that you have a young child, and how it's a girl, correct?
Yeah, my daughter's Camila, and yeah, she's 4 years old. Just
Okay,
turned, yep, not too long ago. So,
that's awesome. So how do you maintain the balance?
well, my wife makes me.
Good.
Yeah, my wife is
And we
incredible.
should have talked about her first. So did you
Yeah,
meet her at Miami or?
I didn't. I met her in Dallas. Yeah.
Gotcha.
A couple of cool facts about her. She's a teacher, and she's a very altruistic, loving, empath. She's an incredible woman. But her father is also Chuck Rainey. He's a famous bass artist. I don't know if you're familiar. I posted that thing on my LinkedIn before, so that's kind of a cool fact about her. But she just won the Teacher of the Year award, so we're very proud of her. I mean, she's just doing
Awesome.
awesome things, and but she's very much about experiences. She's very much about enjoying life. She's got a lot of people around her who passed away, friends and parents of friends who passed away. So she's got an outlook on life that forces her to understand that it's short,
Right.
it's finite, and make sure that you enjoy it. So yeah, having her in my life is important because sometimes you get caught up in work and you want to just keep going and pushing and working, and you don't want to get into a situation when you look up and you're, wow, I missed a lot of life because I'm just focusing on work. So she's so
Right.
incredible and important in my life for helping me with that perspective on things. And so, but yeah, our daughter's 4 years old, and she's an incredible young girl, and she's growing, and it's a fun journey. When I first had her, I was like, I just want to have one child and be done. I'm like, man, I want more. This is
Yeah.
crazy, and it's happening too fast. I want to, I
Right.
want to have more, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I love my family. They keep me. They make me help me understand what's really most important. And again, my wife helps me understand that you can't, you gotta have a balance. You can't just focus on work. You
Right.
gotta be work-life balance with your family.
Yeah, that is so critical. I think one of the blessings that I have had obviously in life were my boys. I mean, and I never forget, and I tell this story, and it was hard, but it was true. When our youngest was born, I remember standing him up and I was like, wow, he's so advanced, more so than the other two. He was, you know, he was. But I remember my wife looked at me and she said, nah, the other two had these milestones. You just weren't here to see them, and that was hard, but it was true. And so I made a point when the business could really handle that. I brought in people and I built in systems so that I could spend that time, and for me, being able to travel the country with my boys during the summer, as they were beginning to make that transition from high school to college and wanting to play sports and stuff. You know how
Yeah,
they have all the sports, camps and everything. I would literally take that time off, for one-on-one dad time to just kind of go around the country and do that with them. And that was so important, man. And you can't get those times back. And so I love the fact that I know you're engaged and I know you're a good family man and you're doing things the right way. And I'm so happy that we had you here today as a guest. And I hope you had a lot of fun, man.
yeah, I had a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me on. I know you're doing great things, and again, I look up to guys like you, and so again, I appreciate you for having me on your podcast as a guest. So.
That's awesome. Armand Robinson, financial advisor and certified financial planner of Edward Jones,
Yep.
father, husband, extraordinaire, just all around great man. I appreciate you, and I'm glad you were here and a guest on the show, and I appreciate you. And I just wish you nothing but success, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the BYA podcast. Feel free to find us on anywhere where you find podcasts. And Armand, is there anywhere that any social media where folks might want to find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. I'm putting out content. I try to put out content to keep people informed of what's going on in the economy and the financial markets. And I'll put some personal things on there every now and then as well. And so yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just my first and last name.
Awesome. Armand, thank you very much. I really appreciate it today.
Thank you for having me again. I really appreciate you for considering. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Have a good one.